Good morning, everybody. How are you? Excellent. Thank you for being here today. I want to welcome you to Pima Community College. This is our Center of Excellence Summit. My name is Jim Craig, and I'm the Dean of Business and Information Technology, and I oversee the hospitality program as well. I'm going to be your host today, and I just wanted to really thank you for being here. This is an incredible opportunity to hear from you and to get your feedback, and we really appreciate your valuable time today. You all represent the leadership in hospitality and culinary across the sector in Tucson and beyond. And we're really honored and thankful for your presence today and the valuable time that you've given us. This morning is really a beginning. It's a start of something bigger to really determine the design of a center of excellence for the hospitality and culinary programs at Pima Community College. First, some logistics. So we have bathrooms out the double doors behind you, also more outside in the patio area, so you can see those as you go outside. Our session will last until 11:30 this morning, and we have a light breakfast and juice and coffee available to you all morning long. And then we have a wonderful lunch planned for you, prepared by our own culinary students. So we think you're going to love that, and we have a great theme for that too. It's now my pleasure to introduce some of the very special attendees. Please stand or wave when I call your name. We are honored by our Chancellor, Lee Lambert. Dr. David Doré, Campus President and Vice Chancellor of Workforce and Economic Development. Dr. Morgan Phillips, Campus President and Vice Chancellor for Educational Partnerships. Dr. Aubrey Conover, Campus Vice President, Northwest Campus. Lisa Broski, Vice Chancellor of External Relations. Lee Lambert has been Chancellor of Pima Community College since July of 2013. Throughout his community college career, he has been a champion and innovator in bringing together industry and community colleges to further economic development and educational opportunity. In 2017, he was named CEO of the Year by the Association of Community College Trustees. Chancellor Lambert received a Juris degree from Seattle University School of Law and a bachelor's in liberal arts from Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. A U.S. Army veteran, Chancellor Lambert was born in Seoul, Korea, South Korea, and grew up in 3 continents and graduated from high school in the Olympia, Washington area. He likes for people to call him Lee. It is now my honor to ask Lee to help us frame the day's work ahead.
Well, good morning, everybody. Well, as you know, there's probably no sector of our economy here locally, in the state, nationally, or globally that touches the lives of every individual in that community than the hospitality sector. And I thought I would just share a brief story of an example of that that I had, and then just build on some pieces about why this is important for us here at Pima Community College. So in 2010, in December of 2010, I traveled to Siem Reap, Cambodia, because I wanted to visit Angkor Wat, and some of you are very familiar with that phenomenal location. Well, while checking into my hotel, I ran into a problem at the counter. And then they said, well, why don't we have you go talk to a person over in guest services. It turns out the person at guest services was a former student at Shoreline Community College, where I was the president. We are in a global industry. It's not just about what happens locally. We are preparing students for a reality that they're going to be touching folks from all over the world. As you all know, in 2015, over 6.5 million visitors came to Tucson, Arizona. And I want you to know we understand that we are preparing your talent base for that reality. So preparing them around cultural fluency, other soft skills will be increasingly important as we go forward. But we also recognize we've got to have the capacity to meet your ever-growing needs in this community. And just so folks who may not be aware, the hospitality sector is the second largest sector in the Tucson metro area. That means you're going to need talent, an ever-increasing skilled talent pool as we go forward. So we recognize because of that, we've got to up our game at Pima Community College. And what that is going to look like, and David will say more about what we mean by Center of Excellence. But we're hoping that as we build this Center of Excellence, we're going to be able to expand capacity to train more students. But more importantly, we're bringing together both our hospitality side of our programming with the culinary side of our programming into one Center of Excellence. We recognize these are interrelated, interdependent programs, not separate programs that should be administered separately in distinct areas. And so as we move forward, you're going to see us increasingly working with you to make sure that the curriculum reflects what you believe is needed in your respective parts of this sector. So with that, I want to, again, just thank you all for coming out and to help us shape what the future of the Center of Excellence for Hospitality at Pima Community College is going to look like for you and this community going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Dr. David DeRay joined Pima Community College as president in 2014. Prior to serving at PCC, he was an administrator with the Maricopa Community District, and prior to that, San Francisco Community College District. First-generation college student, Dr. DeRay earned a doctorate from Pepperdine University, and I think about 5 other degrees, so he's well educated. David was selected as an Aspen Institute Presidential Fellow in 2017 because of his drive and capacity to transform community colleges to achieve greater student success. I present you Dr. David DeRay.
Thank you, Jim. And first, I really want to echo Lee's comments and Jim's comments to thank each of you for being here to help us really shape the future of our hospitality program and our Center of Excellence. And I want to talk just briefly about our Centers of Excellence and what we mean by that and what we're doing at Pima. And this is actually our 6th summit. And essentially, the Centers of Excellence are part of our educational master plan. And briefly, the centers are really about alignment with industry. What Pima is doing is really reinventing the college so that we are a more agile college and really responding to the needs of the workforce. And so our Centers of Excellence really are an entirely new model that transcend the traditional college model of students simply coming for a degree. The concept of a Center of Excellence is now really a new alignment where the lines between certificates and degrees and post-graduate work are all blurred, right? So that really the center is about serving your workforce throughout the entire stream of their career. And so that's part of what we're looking at. The concept then is really 3 components that we have determined that are integral. Number 1 is speed, right? We have to be able to change and to update our curriculum to really respond to your needs. And we understand how technology is really transforming the hospitality sector. So part of that is, how is our curriculum really aligned to your needs in the sector? Secondly is adaptability, right? So that we are, again, a more agile college, and so we're adapting in real time to the economic needs of Pima County. And then thirdly, convergence, right? And so the concept really is perfect alignment. And so there really should not be a difference between what we're doing at the college and what you're doing with continuing education for your employees. And so how can we better serve you along those lines? And so we are investing substantially in our centers of excellence. Our Board of Governors recently approved a $65 million bond, revenue bond, in which we are primarily investing in our facilities, technological upgrades, so that we can better serve each of these sectors. And so what we're doing is as we begin this investment, and as we begin this transformation, we really want each of you to help shape that. And the message that we want you to understand really clearly is that these centers are your centers. As Lee said, the hospitality sector is absolutely critical to the economy of Southern Arizona, and we want to be a part not just of really providing the best workforce for you, but really be a part of helping to shape this sector, helping to grow this sector, and really helping you to deliver the best that we can for Southern Arizona. So I really want to thank you for being here and look forward to a lot of the input that you're going to give today and the insights that you will provide as we will move forward. And Doug is going to talk about a lot of this work, because this is really just the beginning of the process, because we want you to be involved at each step as we really develop our center. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Jim.
Thank you, David. Like David said, the goal of the summit today is to really gain an understanding of the direction in developing the Center of Excellence that we will meet the hospitality and culinary sector demands and requests that you have, and not just for today, but for many years to come. You know, David said it perfectly. This Center of Excellence is really your Center of Excellence. We're here to build it. We're here to customize it. We're here to design it with you, but this is really for you and for your future employees and for your existing employees. Some of the desired outcomes for this summit include building relationships and community and trust. We already have a great start on that, and we just want to continue to grow our relationship and our partnership with you in this manner. We want to open lines of communication and create dialogue, which we're going to do with this interactive session today. Engage stakeholders in a meaningful way that directly shapes the COE. We're actually going to take your feedback and apply it to our strategic planning, our capital expenditures going forward. Define the COE's educational emphasis. We want you to help us build the curriculum that you need to have your industry be successful. And we really want to showcase our existing educational programs, and we want to celebrate the partnerships we already have and garner support and create mutual enthusiasm. And last but not least, we just want to get everybody excited and enthusiastic about what we're trying to do for you. It is now my honor to introduce you to the leader of our hospitality and culinary academic team. Jewel Madu moved here from Atlanta, Georgia, to join the Pima Community College family as the Academic Director of Hospitality Leadership Center of Excellence. With more than 20 years of industry experience, Jewel has worked across the nation from DC to Las Vegas, representing several reputable hotel and restaurant companies, including Marriott International, Hilton Worldwide, Darden Restaurants, and Station Casinos, before crossing into higher education. She attended East Carolina University, earning a bachelor's degree in hospitality management, received an MBA in human resource management, and is currently completing her Doctor of Education in education leadership and management. Jewel's diverse background enables her to provide the expertise needed in almost any aspect of the hotel, restaurant, and culinary arts industry. We have an exciting panel discussion planned for you this morning, and I will now bring Jewel Madu up to introduce and facilitate the panel. Please welcome Jewel Madu, Academic Director of PCC's Hospitality Leadership Program.
Well, talofa, everybody. Instead of saying good morning, I will bring you the islands of Samoa, where I'm from. So talofa to you all. And the response is just talofa back. So talofa. Thank you. All right, so what they all said, thank you, gentlemen, thank you, David, thank you, Lee, thank you, Jim. Just a big warm welcome to us, well, to you all from us. We really appreciate it. We're going to jump right into our panel discussion. So we're going to first bring up Chris Ituli, who is a former PCC hospitality student and also graduated from NAU's hospitality program. So he was perfect to be on this panel. We have Ms. Helinda Lizarraga. She is with Focus Hospitality Group. She has been in the industry for a long time. About 38 years, Helinda? 38 years in the industry. So she represents our hotel sector. We have Brent Durad, who is with Visit Tucson. Brent also brings 30 plus years of industry experience. Thank you, Brent. And we have Mr. An. Come on up here, Mr. An. Mr. An represents, of course, Mr. An's Steakhouse, Teppan Steak and Seafood here in Tucson, and he represents our restaurant sector. So what we wanted to do, just because I know all of you all in this room, it makes it a lot easier. So hello, everybody. We're just going to ask 5 simple questions to kind of get everybody's juices flowing so that once Doug and his team take over, you guys kind of already have those ideas going. So we will jump right in. Yeah, got some microphone space. And I think you guys can take those microphones off if you want to. They don't have to stay stationary. All right, so first question will be for you, Chris, because you have graduated from the program, and this is what our Center of Excellence is all about. The question is, can you tell us what has the hospitality industry, PCC's hospitality program, coupled with NAU, what has that taught you, and how are you applying those skills today?
Okay. To give you a little bit of background, I worked 8 years in the hospitality industry. I'm now a commercial real estate agent. I do buying, selling, and leasing of large assets. Everything that I've learned throughout school and my experience in the industry, I'm applying today. There are so many different facets that go along with hospitality, from sales and marketing to operations to finance to HR. I'm able to apply all those skills today. I'd say about 65% of my time, I'm analyzing P&Ls and assets. The experience that I got from Pima Community College and on the job helps me analyze those P&Ls, and I'm able to close deals and provide excellent service to my clients.
Thank you, Chris, so much. Mr. An, your turn. All right.
Good morning. So, my name is An. Everybody call me. Ask me, so what is your first name? I say, my first name's Mr. And then my last name's An. But actually, my name is Kwang Chun. But I come to this country. I give anybody name, my name's Kwang Chun, and they could not remember. And they keep asking me every day. I'm sick and tired of it. That they say, I give my name's An. Everybody remember that. Then they found out that's my last name. They put my first name's Mr. That's why everybody going by Mr. And thank you for inviting me and Pima College Summit today. And I just want to, my experience in Tucson, I've been in Tucson 45 years. Actually, and I own a Japanese restaurant called Mr. An's Japanese Restaurant, but that's not my field. And I have a civil engineer degree, and I used to have a construction company in Tucson. And Speedo Walmart, that upside-down glass pyramid building, I built that 43 years ago. Then I go to restaurant, and somehow I love the restaurant business. I don't know why. Now I found out very you know.
Mr.
No,
Hahn, that's a perfect segue. Can I ask you a question that you can
Yes,
answer
sure.
for us? So with that, and knowing that you've been in the industry for so long, on the restaurant side, what do you see is the future of the hospitality industry, and how significant is that for a student to not only experience, but to study in this field? What do you see as the future?
I think the future's never gonna stop. I think that's gonna be, everybody gonna be eating, drinking. I think the hospitality business is gonna be and going and going. I think that's very popular. I think Pima College right now, so what are they doing? I think that's an excellent idea, and just, you know, just like I say, so I've done 38 years of hospitality business, and in Tucson, Phoenix, and Scottsdale, 13 restaurants. And I used to have 600 people used to working for me. But that's, I love it. That's most to enjoy, and you help the peoples, and people smile, and all those kind of things. And I think that's going to be very good future. And Pima College right now, is, I think that's one's a great and step up at the hospitality business right now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahn. Brent, let's jump to you. All right, so what new trends do you see that have come up in the hospitality field, in which having a strong hospitality center of excellence would be important to the community here in Tucson specifically?
I think the type of trends that we're really seeing out there, it relates back to just how pervasive technology has become in the overall experience for us as well. Visit Tucson, the company that I run, we've got 40 employees and 11 different departments. And so, you know, when you take a look at a hospitality related education, it really needs to be fairly widespread out there as well. We really see the need more and more, because our job is to market this region out there, not only nationally but internationally as well. I need people who are really just great communicators in general. I need people who can write. I need people who can present and get out there and sell and utilize some of the new technology to be able to make that happen. I would tell you, as we take a look at even how we market the area from a print standpoint, that was about almost all we were doing 10 years ago. Now it's almost all digital. And we take a look at just the importance of social media and some of the other aspects of how we can market digitally out there. It's really important. I need people with skills in video. We had nobody with those skills 3 years ago. Now I have 3 people who spend most of their time out there shooting video, editing video, and pushing video out through just a variety of mechanisms, both, again, not only through our Visit Tucson channels, but through other channels out there too. So the trend from my perspective, if we're going to continue to thrive, our organization needs to focus on product development within the region. How do we take what we have and package it and sell it in a more effective way? And how do we really utilize technology in a greater way as we move forward?
Perfect. So I heard communication, sales, marketing, technology,
Finance.
finance.
It's all there. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to add all those classes in for you
Yes,
then.
there you go.
All right, thank you, Brent. All right, Miss Helinda. So the question for you, with hospitality businesses, of course, continuing to grow, how important is it to a company, to your guys' company, because for Focus, you all have several properties all over. How important is it for a student to have specific skilled talent?
Well, I can tell you right now, we manage 6 properties. It'll be 7 in December. We're looking just in Tucson area, and we're looking for a general manager, and that has that education, that background, liability issues. We need accounting. They need to know how a business module is made, how the cash flows through. We've got great talent in our properties, but if they don't know or have the education to understand the liability and the responsibility that they have, it makes it very difficult for us. So we are looking for people who are educated, communication skills, leadership skills, how to deal with individuals. It's important to us. I am so excited about this program, even for our hotels, because it's going to be a great thing for us.
So just to kind of follow up with that then, another question would be, along with recent trends, have you seen a great deal of shortages in any particular area, or is it just a general thing?
It's mainly leadership. Back in my day, we had several positions. Technology now plays a part in those positions and the economy. When we saw that decrease, there's no longer those levels. You could be promoted within and get promoted and learn the job. Now we need people that already understand it. There's not the middle management, what I call the middle management, and we can't train them in every area. So we're looking for people that have the education. We can develop the skills as far as a hotel goes, but we're looking for people that do have those skills. The nice thing about hospitality, it's so diverse. You can be creative, you can be a salesperson, you can be a communicator, you can be an accountant. There's every position there is. You can be an engineer, someone who fixes things. Every position is available in our industry.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Another question that I want to throw out, and any of you can answer this, is the students that will graduate with a degree here, how important will that be? Or should I say, how much easier would it be for them to be able to find employment in any department with you all, as opposed to those who don't have that degree in this field? Or does it matter? And please be honest, does it even matter? Because I've heard several people say.
From my perspective, having some type of training certificate, degree, it's a door opener. Certainly just to begin with, it shows me that they have the perseverance to go through and that they've taken it seriously in terms of their interest in education and training within a specific industry. I think it's vital, absolutely vital. The one thing I would always just add in there too, what I found is that again, through the coursework and through part of that training, talking to people about just the value of a work ethic and being able to again in my industry, look, I'm probably IQ wise in the lower half easily. There's no question about that. But if you're willing to work, if you're willing to to pay attention, to work hard, to do anything and everything that you can to be a good person, to be a good employee, and to try and move forward, you're going to have a lot of success in the industry. And I think as you teach and train, being able to convey that, at least from my perspective, is really important.
Thanks, Brent. Got something, Mr.
Also, and I agree with him, what he says. The first education and school does that, and 2 years programs and 1 year's program, that's really help because, it's hard to teach you one by one and all, skill. But you step already foundation already done. That's why what I found out is very easy to work with them. I think that's a really excellent, and anything you have to do first the foundation. You have to build the foundation good. That's a college do good foundation. I think it really gonna be easy to find the job.
Thanks, Mr. I was just going to see you, Chris. Go ahead.
Joel, I think the expectation for the students should be that they're working while they're going to school. And that should be the expectation for every single student. That's one of the things that I loved about PIMA and the NAU, is that the scheduling allowed me to work full-time through my entire school career. It took me a little longer, but I was able to work simultaneously, which helped me propel myself, much faster.
Thank you, Chris. So basically, you're saying that it would be to the school's benefit to add a mandatory type of internship, or?
Maybe not necessarily mandatory,
Okay.
but when you're guiding the student, set the expectation that you should be working full-time if this is the industry you want to go into.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Melinda.
Just to add on to that, the reason why it's so good to be working is you can learn the perfect model. This is exactly what you're supposed to do and how you can do it. However, there's still the factors of the guest, the employees, and you need to learn how that plays a factor into the actual job. It's not as perfect because you can't control people.
Perfect, thank you. Do any of the four of you have any last things, comments, suggestions that you want to share with the group? Whether it's what you would be looking for, any additional skills other than, I love what you talked about, Brent, about sales, communications, marketing. Any other final thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to share with you guys my own experience. And I've been doing 38 years in Tucson and Phoenix and Scottsdale, 13 Japanese restaurant. But that's international and cuisine. And we really have a shortage of people. We try to hire the people that's a really pain in the neck. And also, they are making good money. And you just, one chef making just a tip to the $3,000. I think that's a really international business. And I think you guys add on to that, I think you're going to be pretty succeeded. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm in the wrong field. I need to come work for Mr. On. No, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. So hopefully that just kind of got everybody thinking about some of the feedback. I'm going to turn it back over to Jim, but just, I think I've told most of you, but please, all of the feedback today will be crucial to me and to my team as we continue to build this for you all. So please don't hold back on us. We need the input. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jewel and panel. Let's give the panel another round of applause. That was amazing. Thank you. Our facilitator today is Douglas Griffin. He's the managing partner of an Arizona-based leadership consulting firm that specializes in the use of advanced tools and techniques for leadership and organizational development. Douglas is one of the leading meeting facilitators in the country, specializing in the use of electronic brainstorming technology. We promise we won't hook anything up to your head. That allows participants to simultaneously and anonymously brainstorm on key issues, strategies, initiatives, and actions that could affect a team, an organization, or even a community. Please welcome our facilitator, Douglas Griffin.
All right, good morning, everybody. And first of all, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us. Excellent. Really, we'll get this all set. I mean, this is the one that everybody can relate to. It has a lot to do with Tucson's identity and brand. As you think about hospitality, it has a great deal to do with the workforce. And it's just a great opportunity here to really tap into the workforce and align it really well to the kinds of things that are important to all of you. First of all, I'm a native Arizonan, but I started my working career down here in Tucson in 1977. So the old Pueblo for me is very, very important in terms of just background. I've gotten to know it so well over time. I'm up in Scottsdale now, which has its own brand as well. But at the same time, Tucson's got a certain cachet out there. And to the degree that, again, we continue to develop and promote culinary and hotel and resort and so forth here, it really helps to add to that. So when you think about the work, again, that's being done for Visit Tucson and so forth, it's really important. The other thing that's really obvious is what a great opportunity if you're a young person. You know, you think about, again, sort of hotel, restaurant, and culinary and so forth like that. And some people might think of that in kind of a traditional sense, but the role of technology, the role of business, the role of opportunity for leadership is just so significant right now. It's a great opportunity. And I happen to agree as well. If you can get a credential in that, the background that would come from the college, I think it really does open a lot of doors, but also opens a lot of eyes out there about what that career can look like. Because there's a great deal of, again, career opportunity and leadership, not only, again, here in Tucson and Southern Arizona and the Southwest, but from a global implication as well. And again, many of you have experiences globally, et cetera, so it really sets up an opportunity for young people to do that, which I think is terrific. So we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about your experiences around hospitality and the implications of it and what makes a center of excellence. My colleague Carl Lundblad with me up at the front there, he and I will kind of take you through things. Sometimes, by the way, we're going to summarize things real time. The reason for the laptops, by the way, is all of you can speak at the same time and be heard. which is an unusual thing in these days and times. And we do this all the time, sometimes virtually, sometimes in person. But we've done this for all of the centers of excellence. And it's given us a great baseline to work from just in terms of getting people's feedback. We're also going to mix in lots of discussion as well as we go through. We'll get a little data out there, and then I'll just ask you comments and observations as you may have them. We've got some mics so we can run around as we do that as well. So all I want to really encourage you to do is just be open, be candid, give us your best thinking and experiences about hospitality, about leadership, about the role that Pima can play in advancing the workforce. The one thing that we really understand quite well across all of the different centers of excellence is in the past there's really been a misalignment between curriculum development and the workforce needs. And if we can bridge that gap and align it, whether it's in IT or in healthcare or whatever, and especially here in hospitality, that is a win-win for everybody. It's a win for you, it's a win for the college, and it is really a win for the students out there. And so to the degree that, again, all of this works as a partnership, that's what really makes it happen as we go through it. So just really invite you to sit back, relax, enjoy the questions that we're going to put in front of you. Hope they're kind of interesting. And this is nothing but a first step. This is a first step. The idea of developing a compelling, again, center of excellence does not happen overnight, but you've really got the support from Chancellor Lambert and Dr. Dre and others here to really push this forward, which is really important from that standpoint. So, and by the way, you have a terrific leader in Jewel who has got great experience and background, and those of you that have met her, she is quite infectious with her, again, just positive nature, but also experience. And I think that that's a terrific, again, selection there to drive all of this. So that's very positive as well. So we're going to start out with a little bit of a feedback about what you heard on the panel. And again, 4 really excellent panelists, and I think we could have spent hours with them, quite frankly, to get a little feedback about that. But we're going to move you to an open question right now on your laptops, and we're moving it over right now. Give it a moment to pop over there. And the question that we're going to ask you here is simply, what are some of your feedback, some of your insights, some of the learning that you got out of the panel? And I want to ask you to add your own experiences in thinking about the future of hospitality, some of the trends that are occurring out there, et cetera. Now, the way that this works is we placed you in the dialog box. All you simply do is type in, click on the blue enter key on the right side. That'll be your magic kind of send button for that as we do this. And what I really want to invite you to do is just to think about some of the insights that you have there. And let me make sure I get you in there. And I will log you back in just a second there. Let me get them started there. I'll log you back in just a second there. And again, the way it works, just type in, click on add, click on the blue enter key. But insights, observations, what did you hear there that was interesting about the industry, where it's heading, the student opportunity, the learning opportunity, et cetera? We'll build up a few ideas. I'll take a look at those, and then we'll get into, again, some of the ideas around the Center of Excellence. Thanks. How are you? Good. Excellent. Yeah, here we go. No worries. That's all right. No worries. And you are all set. Okay. And Carl, take 16 back to this, if you would. He's going to take you back to the original question. So, okay. Yeah, 1-6. Thanks. All right, ideas starting to come in. Again, we'll kind of mix our open discussion with some of the electronic work. Just type in, hit the blue enter key, throw in another one. Insights, what did you hear? What are some of the things that are happening? Trends, ideas. How is this industry going to change? Why is this idea of a center of excellence important? Why does it matter out there? Great stuff. Keep after it. Let's go for a couple minutes here. Just again, think about that. You'll see all the responses on the screen in front of you. It's by collaborative by design there. Keep after it. Take a look. Yep, you're good. Thanks. And let's go another quiet minute there, and then I'll just ask for any observations you have. Terrific stuff here, again, around the workforce, the demand, leadership opportunities, soft skills, different kinds of things that are required out there. And let's give it a final 30 seconds here. Thanks. By the way, all of this will format into a document for the team on Monday, so it's a great opportunity for Jewel and Jim and others to kind of see your feedback on that. We're going to do some assessments along the way as well, so we're going to mix in some different kinds of techniques as we go through it. But again, it'll allow all of you to really kind of tap into our set of experiences there. All right, take a look at what's in front of you and also just think about your own experiences here about what's happening within hospitality. And I just want to ask you, what's the one thing that comes to mind maybe that is really most compelling about this? And what I'll ask you to do is the first time that you have a chance to speak up there, just give us your name and kind of area as well. That would be terrific on that. And Sean, do we have some mics so we can run around as we do that? So anybody, just a comment here as you think about what's happening out here. What's one thing that's really powerful here as you think about what's happening and the idea of the Center of Excellence, but really the trends that are happening as well? Anybody? This is that interactive part. You just jump right in. So, comment or observation. What's one thing that really stands out to you here? Yeah, please, come on over here. So, and if you have a loud voice, just jump. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, just in. Yeah.
In the area first, not only for our students, but for the Tucson area.
Yeah.
There's always such an expansion of restaurants,
Yeah.
and hotels. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
So just how great of an opportunity we're providing to our students, and
Yeah.
some of the comments that some of the panel made was really wonderful in combining the idea of the importance of not only the learning that occurs in the classroom,
Yeah.
but ensuring students are provided that hands-on experience.
Yeah.
That's going to be, I think, critical to really succeed within the field or within.
Yeah, and it's really kind of interesting because in some workforce sectors there, this idea of an internship or kind of working as you go is really secondary. And here I think it has to be primary. I mean, that's how you get to how you get to know people, relationships, find out what area you want to be involved in, those kinds of things as well. So it is a great opportunity. And this is a huge growth opportunity. And again, as Jim and others mentioned there, this is one of the largest employment sectors in Tucson and southern Arizona, and nationally as well. So if you're making a bet as a young person, it's not a bad bet, right? And that becomes really important. Others, I know there were some other hands up there. Yeah, coming over there. Sean will bring you. And the reason for the microphone, by the way, is they're video and audio recording. Thank you, please.
Absolutely. My name is Tim Phillips. I'm with GCU Hotel. And one of the things that I saw that in the past few years that's really kind of increased its pace and the rate of change is, and it was hit on in the discussion earlier too, I think by Brent, was the social media digital marketing element. I know for a fact that our digital budget is, far greater than it once was, and that is because that is where the eye is attracted to now. And, you follow where people are looking.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I did not necessarily think that our, Facebook page and Instagram page would be a driver for sales, but it absolutely is. Any incentive that people see on there, they immediately call or hit our website up after seeing those posts or whatever. So it's you can track that data as well very easily. Based on physical billboards and stuff, it's really hard to see who, saw that and that was their incentive or their driver to your business. So.
Great. So it's a great point because it's a whole other area. It's almost the data and analytics side of this thing in terms of what people are doing. And one part is you pushing information out, right, in terms of digital information, incentives, information about the facility, et cetera. The other, though, is that the experience that people have and how they share that experience becomes really powerful as well. And so their ability then to have a great experience, again, at your facility, at your location, hotel, restaurant, et cetera, and then share that becomes really important as well. And, of course, the caveat is we hope it's really positive experiences because, again, it says that in these days and times, people will share the negative as well. So it kind of creates some good accountability on all sides. But the role of social media, virtual, digital is huge in this area. And, again, back to the analytics side, the ability to be able to look at how many people are accessing your site or accessing social media and so forth becomes really important. Thank you for adding that, too. Other thoughts? Just these are good. Another, yeah, pop up here. Thank you, Sean, very much.
Okay, my name is Carlo Buscemi. I'm from Italy. I worked in hotels all over Europe before I came to this country. And I'm teaching at this college as well. The most important thing for the future, I see our students be ready to deal with different cultures. That's one thing that we are missing. The big market for us in this country is China. How many of us speak Chinese? Zero. So that's always pushing my students, if you want to move ahead, learn Chinese, because that's where the future is going to be. You got 350 million Chinese middle class that are coming over. Mostly they go to New York, San Francisco, some other cities, not here, because we don't speak Chinese. That's one thing we needed to think about.
It's a great point. So, and this idea again of understanding culture as someone who is in this industry is so natural because first of all, this is a confluence of cultures. And again, we can easily think about, again, the Southwest confluence and so forth, but it is global. My son lives in Vienna, Austria. He speaks 6 languages. His opportunity to become hugely impactful there is because his understanding of culture there that goes through that. So same here is this idea of, again, the workforce that comes out of here really understanding and assimilating different cultures. And as Tucson reaches out to, again, draw in visitors, et cetera, that becomes really powerful there because they will go back and tell other people about it, and this becomes a destination of choice, which is really important. Thank you. It's a great comment. A couple more. These are really good. Other just points of view that you raised. Here's one back here. Yeah, thank you. Sean?
Sure, I'm Sam Alboy. I founded Mama's Hawaiian Barbecues here in Tucson about 8 years ago. And one thing that's been critical that we've seen the college doing, we think is a really positive thing as far as the industry-wise, is the consolidation of the programs from travel and tourism and hospitality and culinary all together because no matter what part of the spectrum we're in, there's so much crossover. And I think that for us is having one point person with Jewel and will facilitate better the internship programs and the crossover into the industry directly. So
That's a great, excellent point there. And I think part of this is bringing culinary and hospitality together, for example, and having a overall point of focus on that is exactly right. And it's not only, I think, good for you, it's great for the college because I think as you see things that might be gaps in the workforce or issues out there, your ability to say, look, why don't you think about piloting this? We'll put some resource in or partnership in, et cetera. Could be a really great opportunity as new things emerge, et cetera. So that's great. I know we have some high schools in attendance, and Jewel just asked me to maybe reach out to one of you. And I guess the question we'd ask on this thing is, to what degree do you see, again, a relationship between any high school programs and the hospitality leadership here in terms of getting people identified early on that may have an interest? And I'm just curious if someone from one of the high schools can maybe make a comment about what you see on that. So. Oh, here we go. Okay, great. Sean? Yeah.
As you were speaking, I was thinking about the students that I have, and I'm a longtime educator. My name is Patty Schmalzon.
Yeah.
I've taught in Tucson and southern Arizona. And hospitality is not a career I hear the kids really talking about. And one of the things that I hear them say, well, it's so low pay, and that's one of the visions for culinary too.
Yeah.
It's a minimum paying job. Even with all of the good hospitality programs we have in the state. And so I think that's a roadblock maybe. I don't know how the enrollment is going here at Pima, but if you're attracting the students, I applaud you because I'm trying to encourage them to go into the hospitality industry, and they're being filtered off into STEM occupations and all of this kind of stuff. So.
Thank you for the comment. It's a really important one because for the ability to identify early on that people might have an interest and to help promote that is really, really key there because a lot of people are making decisions earlier on about that. The role of high schools and counselors to do that becomes important. And if people have a negative connotation about hospitality, whether it's because of fast food or whatever it might be from that standpoint or compensation, et cetera, we've got to change that. And I will say that Pima's doing that across a number of sectors. The same issue really is around automotive, for example, applied technology. What a great career now, super high tech and super well paid, all those kinds of things, and yet a lot of families and young people don't think about that. Well, here's another great opportunity. And I think you've got a lot to bring to the table here in terms of opportunity and skill and global and so forth and that. But part of the Center of Excellence then suggests that our ability to change that connotation becomes part of what the center needs to do. Not to add more things for Jewel to do, but that's okay. So, but it is, isn't it, right? To change that brand perception and so forth on that, and to even to begin to be visible at the high school level, maybe have speakers come from, again, the facilities, whether it's the college or the restaurants or the hotels or resorts, et cetera, to talk to them about the opportunity and to say, look, this is the opportunity that's given me personally, et cetera. That will open some eyes. Because at the end of the day, it is a fun industry, right? I mean, it's a great industry on that. And so that becomes really important. Any final one just here? Again, great comments here. Let's grab Sean over here. One more. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Michael Jewell. I also teach with Mr. Buscemi here at the college, and I have been in hospitality for 40 years, globally, around the world. And I know Erlinda and I know each other from back in the day, and we came up similar backgrounds, out of housekeeping, stewarding. I did all the things. And the things that I teach my students and I teach them is it's not going to be an easy path, that it takes a lot of work. And the people, and you brought it up in the panel, the way we train people today in hospitality is not how we were trained back in the day, where we went from department to department, and that, but they have to get their hands in it and understand it, and hospitality still needs that. And it's a big thing for us to cross over, and they have to understand the benefits of staying in the program, going out, and they will have to, and I explained to them, they will probably have to leave Tucson and to expand their career. And that's where the cross culture and everything else comes in, because you learn that way. But hospitality around the world is still hospitality. And in the school note, I have a son in the culinary program in TUSD at high school, and he's goading me all the time. Hey, Dad, you want to build me a restaurant? No. but he gets it. And he understands it, but he's lived it his whole life.
Yeah.
So it's easier for that. But it's a great thing, and I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Great. Thank you. Great comment. Actually, it's a great segue to our next question there, which is about sort of this idea of hospitality itself. So, Jewel, if I just say, I look around, I say, thank you for the hospitality, right? Easy thing that we all say, the Western hospitality or Southern hospitality, et cetera. But it's a word that all of us have certain imagery with. And I thought just as a final warm-up here, we'll move to that right now. And what I want to ask you is, when we think about the word hospitality, what comes to mind? Images, phrases, ideas, et cetera, that for you kind of sets that definition of hospitality. Boy, when I think of hospitality, I think of. So give that a shot here. I just want to find out some of the common words, phrases, images that come to mind when I think about hospitality. Just type in blue enter key, and then we'll head to our next activity. Thanks. Multiple responses fine in this, too. What? Oh, yeah, no. I know you can. Yeah. Great language coming in. Keep after it. Multiple responses fine here. Great stuff. Travel, celebrations, warmth, welcoming. Make somebody happy. Fred Harvey comes to mind there. There's a Grand Canyon point. Intuitive. Brand expectations. Genuine, follow-through, memories, making people feel at home. Just that idea of kind of an oasis in the middle of a hectic life, right? That idea of, man, I just found a great spot to kind of unwind in. Thank you for being attentive to that. Let's go one more minute here. Positivity, nostalgia, sense of being, a place of refuge. You can let your guard down and relax. Great. So the one thing that we know about hospitality is it's a really positive vibe, right? I mean, it's a word, it's an atmosphere that is important, and we recognize it no matter where we are, I should say. I was in Johannesburg, South Africa last week on business, and you could just find a place of refuge there that from the busy, again, things going on there and prepping for our engagement and stuff like that. It was just terrific to sit back and relax, and the hotel folks just said, relax, we got you, it's good. Like that. And so, internet and the lobby and all that kind of stuff was working great, and a cup of coffee, and life was good. So we all understand this. And again, The implications, though, are not just about simply making people happy. It's also about brand. It's around identity. It's around strategy. It's around competitiveness. The other thing we also know is that this is a really competitive industry. I just read a quick post in AZ Central yesterday about 7 more restaurants that had closed in Scottsdale. And some of these have been around for a while. That's a terrific market. And so the question is, why is that, right? Well, sometimes it's a decision by the owner, but many times it's, again, competition, and you just got out of sync there with what people wanted. And back to, again, the digital side there where people are aware of that. So good work. Nicely done. We're going to go into our next activity. We're going to go into the background survey here, Carl. And I'm just going to ask you, again, a little bit of background here relative to who you are and the role that you play. And then we're going to ask you a really important question, which is, as you think about hospitality moving forward in Tucson and southern Arizona, are you optimistic or pessimistic relative to the actual industry itself? So in front of you right now, and you all have the same copy, just indicate, all of you are one-on-one on the laptop, so you can just indicate that checkbox to the far right side. Indicate if you're a hotel, resort, culinary, or support services. Most importantly, I'm interested in this question. Optimistic, pessimistic, or middle of the road about hospitality in Tucson and southern Arizona. So again, checkbox to the far right side, and then pop down to that open text area. What gives you that impression? Why did you select, again, the selection that you did there? And we'll go through that. So take your time with it, and we'll take a look there. Once you're all set, by the way, you'll see a submit button in the upper right-hand side. Just click on that. That'll send your results and send your responses, I should say, and put you in the results as well.
Report back if you can make sure that you're not blocking this camera.
Okay. Okay. And again, once you're all set, take your time with it. Just click on submit button, upper right-hand side, and that'll take in the results. We'll take a quick look at those. And probably another minute or two. Some really candid comments coming in, too. Excellent. All right, perhaps a final minute here. Once you're all set again, just make sure you've clicked on submit. We'll take a quick look here, and then we're going to really dive into the Center of Excellence concept overall, and specifically what will create a very compelling Center of Excellence for hospitality. All right, a few more coming in right now, but it's pretty clear again that overall there's a pretty strong view that this is a really important opportunity. Very optimistic about the growth of the industry. There's a lot of growth happening. There's a lot happening in downtown. There's a lot relative to tourism, et cetera, that brings people in. Their expectations are high. That means that we've got to be prepared for them too, whether it's workforce or our brand, et cetera. So again, it just suggests that this is a pretty good opportunity, pretty good place to be in terms of industry from that standpoint. Probably pretty sustainable, would you say? Pretty sustainable as you think about that as well. So again, with the people there. Any just comments again about sort of the future opportunity in Tucson and Southern Arizona before we get into our next question? Just anything else that comes to mind here just verbally? All right, we're going to go into some activities now that we want to just begin to develop this idea. As I mentioned before, this is your center of excellence, and I think that the team at PIMA has said that very, very specifically, that, again, this will only work if it really reflects the community and the business and the industry needs out there, and that's the whole idea of alignment. So to the degree that we really understand what you think the center needs to look like and what it needs to produce and the focus it needs to have, that's really important there. So I want to ask you, first of all, on this idea of a center of excellence, you could have, some of you probably have been part of centers of excellence before or involved or had some experiences there. A center of excellence raises the bar, right? It says, look, there is a level of focus and resource and thought leadership going on here. It's really important. So what I want to ask you before we ask specifically about the hospitality COE is, what is it, what are some of the attributes in general of a center of excellence when you hear that? I want to say this. The team at PIMA thought very hard about what language to use in the launch of this strategy overall. 6 centers of excellence: healthcare, applied technology, IT, safety, and so forth. Arts, as a matter of fact, was our 6th one there. But it was specific language because we think it communicates something. I want to find out what center of excellence means to you, independent of hospitality right now, but just in general. When you think of Center of Excellence, what comes to mind there? So multiple response, Carl and I are going to do a little bit of theming around this, but let's take a look here and again get your thoughts here about what needs to be in place to create a Center of Excellence. Thank you. Back with you. So again, what words, phrases, or just concepts that come to mind that seem to be prevalent here? What do you notice? Technologies, okay, so a high degree of understanding of the technologies, so forth. Carl, if you'll add that, if you would there, just again, technology implementation. What else? Yeah, high quality. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there are probably a number of things around quality, but high quality instructions, which means that your expectations of, again, hospitality is that these are going to be people who know their stuff, right? That have got experiences, that are well-rounded and so forth, because they are teaching the next generation of people that we're going into hospitality. What else there comes to mind? These are great. Yeah.
Real-life experience.
Excellent. And when you say that, for the instructors or for, yeah, so just real experiences integrated in the COE. Absolutely. So the concern sometimes is that you get into academic, if you will, COE or kind of theoretic, et cetera. This has to be, again, representing what's happening out there. So it's a great point. What else do you see here? Again, just thoughts, comments, elements of a COE? What? You had one. Go, go, go. Oh, okay. She has no voice. Okay, she's whispering to you. Let's have the whisper, and then we'll. Yeah, that's great. There's this opportunity here to be innovative, to grow, to recreate, et cetera. So this is kind of thinking about. Thank you, by the way. I'm sorry to, but again, this idea there that we are thinking about new stuff. We're kind of recreating hospitality. I mean, the question you want to ask yourself is: everything been done in hospitality? No, right? There's lots of new stuff out there. Technology adds to it. Again, the global nature adds to it. Our understanding of social trends adds to it. Demographic filters add to it. What is the next generation of people who will be our guests after the Z generation, for example? What will be important for them? To what degree are we teaching the differences between millennial and Z and those kinds of things? This is stuff that really matters in terms of understanding. What else comes to mind? Great stuff. Again, what creates a center of excellence? Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. There's collaboration really in several ways. The industry itself and the institution, but also the community and the industry and the institution. So a lot there about the partnerships. We'll ask you more about what creates really good partnerships, because the other thing that Jewel and the team know is they can't do this alone. And the degree that it's almost a combined confluence there of expertise, the center of excellence kind of has people moving in and out. That becomes really powerful. Thank you. There was a comment back there. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Education of the local population.
Yeah.
On what is the center of excellence.
Yeah.
How there's value for them to be engaged or involved.
Yeah, thank you for that, because this is going to be a real challenge for the team here, which is how do we communicate the essence of what the COE is all about and why it matters to this community and how they can be involved as well, because there's a rich set of experiences that are in Tucson and Southern Arizona, people that have great experiences, not specifically just in the industry, but they've experienced the industry. And to bring those together as well could be really powerful. So thank you for that. That outreach is going to be very, very important as well. Anything else that comes to mind here that again, just from a general center of excellence standpoint? Yeah, please. Yep. That's all right.
One thing that I definitely think that it's been hit on briefly is the like collaboration and stuff from industry professionals. If you guys can network within your territory or whatever, professionals who these guys can look up to that maybe aren't in the college or whatever, outside mentors and stuff like that. If you can get relationships outside, I know that we've been able to do that, just have people come and speak, and now it's like an agreement where anytime that they have a need, they come straight to us instead of going to any other type of hiring agency or anything. So that type of seminar collaboration for outside, real, live, experienced people is very beneficial for students.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. That's a great opportunity to tap into, again, national, global leaders here that can provide an experience or an expertise. And what that begins to do also is it develops more of a reputation for the Center of Excellence itself too. So it gets to be known by people, and then perhaps there's a pilot opportunity that someone wants to do nationally with the group here. That's terrific on that. So the degree that you can begin to knit those together, that becomes really important. People in this industry love to talk about the industry. And so for them to hear that there's an emerging Center of Excellence that's building some of the best and brightest for the future, sure, they want to come talk to them. That's great. So, and I'm sure there's great places to stay when they come here. So there you go. That works out pretty good. All right, anything else just about, just in general, the concept? Pretty powerful concept. And again, this is the sixth one we've launched, but I think it's one of the most important ones for Tucson moving forward. So we're going to do a quick exercise now about, based on everything you've heard right now, what you like about the idea of a hospitality COE, and also the concerns you have about being able to really put it together in the right kind of way. And so we're going to ask you for some open comments. We'll do a little bit of assessment around these. And then right after that, we're going to really ask you to populate what you feel are the ideal attributes of a compelling Center of Excellence for hospitality for Pima. So that's kind of the next things. And we'll probably take a short break after that point, but let's get through that. That'll be great. So Carl, let's go to that next question there. It's what you like so far about what you've heard about the Hospitality Leadership COE. So again, based on what Jewel said, and Jim, and Dr. Duray, and others there, and Lee, what do you like here about the concept? Feel free to embellish a little bit. Boy, it sounds to me like it's going to be, et cetera. But I want to find out the positive factors right now that really sound like, boy, this is a pretty good idea. You guys have got something here, and I'll tell you what I like about it so far. So multiple responses here. We're going to work through it. Let's take a look. All right, very nicely done. So what we saw in there, what Carl and I were doing, by the way, is just doing a real-time summary of some of the themes that were coming in there. And there's a lot of stuff here that there's a sense that this is a genuine investment. There's real resources that are going into this. There's a focus on innovation. There's a focus on global nature. We're reaching out to the community. We're reaching out to industry. We're thinking again about what it would take to sustain this, et cetera. So there's a lot of good things that have come in. We're going to do something right now, which is to take you into that summary, but ask you to indicate how important each of these will be for the future success of the Center of Excellence. So Carl's taking you into it right now. It's going to be our first actual assessment. I'll kind of walk you through it here. We've got about a dozen themes listed here. For example, the idea that it sounds innovative. There's a level of innovation here. We're going to try some new things. Opportunities to partner with the industry, investment of resources, focuses on preparing students to be workforce ready, et cetera. There's about 12 of these altogether. What we're interested in doing is just thinking about these base themes. How important are each of these well-planned and well-implemented for the future success of the COE? So let's assume we do these. I want to get a sense here about your view about how important these. For example, collaboration with the industry versus, again, focus on global. We might see different things there. The way this is going to work, it's a 1 to 10 pull down on each one. On the lower side, a 1 or 2 or 3 would indicate not that important. Interesting, but not that big of a deal. As you go up the scale, 8, 9, 10, yeah, that is a big-time deal. That is really important, and your leaders need to recognize how important that is for the future. So you can use any number of times. Your task is to weigh in on all 12. Once you're all set, click on Submit, upper right-hand side. We'll take a look at this, and then we'll flip the question about the concerns you have as well. Okay, let's take a look. If you have any questions as you're going through, just raise a hand. Thanks. And our response is already beginning to come in. Again, make sure you click through all 12, and then once you're all set, click on Submit. That'll take you into the results. You can see as your peers around the table here enter theirs as well. And probably another minute here. Nicely done. And just a couple more popping in. Once you're in the results there, you can kind of see this has been resequenced now by the group average around the table. And the first thing I'll call out to you, just because I'm kind of used to, what happened here? You're looking for the Italian version. Is that what you're telling me? All right. So. Hang on a second. No worries. You're all set there. Okay. And then let me make sure I've got you in there, and I'm going to submit those. And you're set. Perfect. Thank you. So the first thing I would call it, because I'm kind of used to just doing a quick look at a screen here, is, man, they're all pretty important. And what that also says is, if you're going to put this thing together, don't single thread it, right? You have to be pretty comprehensive around it, et cetera. That's a bit of a challenge to the leadership team, in my view, that says, hey, look, it's not just one thing here. The expectations, if you're going to call it a center of excellence, the expectations are it's going to be a center of excellence, not a center of something pretty good, right? So it's going to be kind of that kind of thing. So that language becomes kind of self-fulfilling on that. But take a look at the top set there. Opportunities to partner with the industry. focusing on preparing students to be workforce ready, reaching out to the industry, real world experiences, career path opportunities. Again, there's 7 or 8 of these, are 8.5 and above. But I think the 2 things that really jump out to me as I look at this is this partnering, collaborative kind of approach on that. This is not meant to be an insulated center of excellence. In fact, we know that one of the critical factors is that agree to engage people like yourselves into it, get great thought leadership, but we think you'll get value out of that. In other words, whether it's just from the students themselves or, again, just the peers, that becomes really important. And then this notion of preparing students to be workforce ready. And we're going to get into that in a little bit, but anybody's comments on that or what you see right now in terms of students in these days and times? Are they workforce ready at this point in time? Are there some shortcomings right now that seem to be consistent that you see? I'm just curious right now. What do you see in terms of, again, people that are entry level coming into the workforce right now in hospitality? Prepared, not prepared? What's the input you see? Not prepared. Where do you see the biggest shortcomings of that?
Understanding different cultures.
Culture, yeah.
Understanding the variety of jobs available.
Yeah.
They don't know. They think it's just the kitchen or dining room.
Yeah, very sort of short-sighted about what it could be. What else do you see there? Again, people coming into the entry-level side right now on that. Yeah, please, go ahead. Yeah.
The risk of sounding negative, there's just a little bit of a lack of professionalism.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're negative. I think it's
see a lot
true.
of individuals come in jeans and a pair of Vans and ripped up T-shirt and calling me dude and man
Dude.
and and that's just, there needs to be a little bit of focus on building some of those interview skills, communication skills, soft skills in order for these individuals to be successful.
And because first of all, I think you're onto a really important point, which is, and it's really cross-industry, by the way. It's this idea that people kind of show up and it's like, hey, tell me what you're going to do for me, and it's kind of casual and all that kind of thing. Why do you think that is? Why have we gotten to that point? I know that's not the way I interviewed when I interviewed for IBM in 1977. It was buttoned up, that kind of thing. But why is that now?
Culturally, I think there's just it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing. I think just there's an entitlement issue.
Yeah.
But I think there's just an acceptance of, I am who I am, and you got to accept me this way.
Yeah.
And we need to teach individuals that they're not doing me a favor.
Yeah.
I'm giving them a job. I pay them to do the work that they're being requested to do. So there needs to be a little of that. Again, I think it's just a level of professionalism.
Yeah.
They need a mentor. They need somebody to help guide them to understand that I don't owe you anything as an employer. You're asking me for a job.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of that entitlement in there.
So this is a really important point, because the ability to integrate that into the center of excellence, whether it's, again, sort of the work ethic or attitude or interview skills or understanding what it's like to be an employer sitting across from the desk there, is really, really significant on that. And that starts to create a bit of a brand for the students of Pima as well. If they come into your environments and they are pretty sharp and they seem to be a little bit different than what you've seen in the past, it says, first of all, it's going to give them an advantage, but secondly, it's going to help create the brand. What else do you see, just again, from this idea of workforce ready? It's a good discussion. Other comments that you see? Yeah, please, this is a good one.
So it's not a criticism, it's just, I think parenting has completely changed. It's been transformed compared to other generations where there is little to no appetite for adults to help parent or educate on the soft skills, to his point, about how to interact with other adults. So they're coming ill-prepared. It's not the young adult's fault. It's not the parent's fault. It's just very different. So there's over-parenting within the family unit, but then there's little to no parenting done by coaches or teachers or neighbors, and it's not their fault either.
It's another segment that I think the COE can reach out to is, again, the parent side here about, again, the kind of support, the idea of what the opportunity might look like for students. Can you imagine an open house, for example, around hospitality careers, having parents come in, talk to them about that, how to prepare them, those kinds of things like that. It's a really important opportunity. So again, it's another dimension of what the COE can do. I remember when my son Jack, his first job was with Starbucks. And I had my local Starbucks, that kind of thing there. And he was going to interview, And I said, well, what research have you done? He goes, what do you mean? I said, have you looked at the, what the Starbucks culture is, their position on giving and social causes and things like that? He goes, no, why? I said, because you're not going to get a job if you don't. And so we went through a mock interview, and it wasn't a negative or anything like that, but it was about, look, you need to go into this so that John, who's the store manager, will look across and say, man, you get it, and I can see you talking to my customers and my guests there, and so that really becomes important there. So again, teaching that in a way that's compelling, and again, I just say from a PIMA standpoint, differentiating the brand of student that comes out becomes really important. So yeah.
I would also say as a result of technology, young adults have a disproportionate amount of screen time in their life experience as opposed to face-to-face time in real life. And in hospitality, much of those skills required need to have FaceTime experience, and they're coming ill-prepared because they just don't have that life experience.
And this is really interesting because every industry's got this issue, right? Which is the communication skills, the soft skills that, again, the students coming out of colleges or universities or even high schools don't have in the right kind of way. I think it's accentuated for that exact reason, which is this is a people business. This is a across the table, across the desk, across the counter kind of business, and so it's going to get accentuated there. The good news is they got lots of digital skills, and they can be terrific in understanding that. The bad news is they've been more focused on that, and so you're going to have to bring them along on the communication side and soft skill side, because that's what it's all about is, again, guests that really love what you do in a genuine and authentic kind of way. So thank you. Anything else on this? Is a really good topic. So yeah, please. Yeah. Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. No, I mean her point again is really, and again that's a perception issue that has to be changed out there, which is, look, it's okay. You may start out in a relatively modest, starting wage or salary, et cetera. But man, if you're good at this, because guess what? We can't fill the jobs out there. And what do you like doing? Here's a path for you, et cetera. But you got to pay your dues. You got to have some skills, and you've got to have some experience, and that'll help you understand better where you're going.
You need to be educated.
Yeah, that always helps too. So yeah, so as I've told my children, you think education's hard, try not having one. So then that seems to get them. You have to think about that one a little bit. All right, so good stuff. So now I want to ask you the flip side of this question. Okay, there's one more. I'm sorry. Somebody has got. Yeah, please. Yeah.
So in my limited experience here at PIMA, I see not just traditional age students participating.
Oh, thank
so
you.
You have
yeah.
many students who are coming in that may have life experience that is not in the hospitality industry, but they view that as a path to a better economic situation for themselves.
Yeah.
Jewel had a dinner here on Tuesday night, and some of the students who were serving the meals and making the meals were clearly not the 18 to 20-year-old student. And so I think that there is an opportunity around people who are changing career. I think that the tourism industry is much broader than just hotels and restaurants. There's sporting events, there's convention business, there's meetings that take place. And so being able to think about this in a more diverse way in terms of student population and what hospitality means, I think is an advantage for PIMA as we do this Center of Excellence. And creating excellence means you are expected to dress differently and interact differently. And when you start to brand the institution that way, I think that it starts to resonate with students at every level in the community.
Thank you, because this is a dimension. First of all, this is what community colleges are all about. They draw in lifelong learners and adult learners and people that want to make a mid-career shift and things like that. They're known for that, and they appeal to people there. So you have a even more diverse potential workforce on there, which means that, again, back to another thread here, the ability to appeal that, but also leverage that, because these are people that already have, in many cases, really good interpersonal experiences, backgrounds, professional skills, and things like that. But maybe they've never even thought about culinary and hospitality as a place to do that. So let's get them there. I mean, that's another thing. You're competing against a lot of industries out there, but boy, if you can get that emotional level about why that matters, it's really important. Thank you for bringing that up. That's another dimension that we hadn't even gotten into. So it again just starts to create the mosaic of what this could potentially look like. All right, let's do the flip side of this question because it's an important one. Because in the back of your mind, you might be saying, yeah, this sounds good, but, right? So I want to ask you very directly, what are some of the concerns or the challenges that you see for the college moving forward in this idea of a hospitality center of excellence? So be as candid as you can. We'll do a quick exercise around that, and let's get a sense. Again, it can be in the form of a question, it can be in the form of a comment, but what do you see as some of the key challenges? Let's take a look. Again, what I saw there, and we're going to do a quick assessment, and then we'll kind of come up for air, is resource, sustainability. Can you get enough people into the program? I thought one really insightful comment was, will this really be different? Will it make a difference? I mean, it's great, you know, paint this picture, it sounds good, et cetera. But at the end of the day, will it make a difference in the quality of the student, the quality of the workforce, the brand of Tucson and Southern Arizona and so forth in terms of hospitality? That's a terrific question, which is, will it really make a difference? That's kind of the leadership challenge there. High quality instruction, the tools there, the leadership connections that you might need to have, et cetera. So in the interest of time, let's go right to the assessment here, do the same thing on this, and ask you again, how important are these to address and to make sure that we pay attention to in terms of making sure that we've got a highly successful center of excellence, and we'll move over to that now. Same idea, we've got 11 or 12 here. Along the left side, things like ability to sustain the COA, combining hospitality and culinary, will that water it down to any degree? Can we give equal weighting on that? I think that was important. Re-educating students on career opportunities, teaching the necessary work ethic, there's a dozen. How important are each of these to address and to really implement in terms of the future success? The more important to put attention, leadership time, focus, resource, the higher you rate it, and just as you did before, you can use any number of times. Let's take a look at your, again, assessment of these challenges. It's so hard to find the mouse on it. Next open question, yeah. And we'll use that for a break. Another minute or two here. Responses coming in nicely. Again, it's going to be resequenced by the group average, just as it was before. Excellent. So it's kind of an interesting list. I know a couple of you just finishing up, but those of you in the results there, again, we're 9.8 down through 7.7. We're on a really important list here. And up the top there, this right level of instructional excellence. So the premise, one of the premises here, is that the COE, well implemented, will be a net attractor of instructional talent. Does that make sense? And so that becomes important too, because if this is a critical element here, which it obviously is, that means that the COE and the college has to, again, maybe break some molds there to do things differently to get the right level of talent. Highly respected, really good educators. They have to be both respected at the industry level, but also really good educators, right? That's an interesting balance out there to be able to do. So getting that mix becomes important. But I think one of the premises of the COE has been that this could be a net attractor of instructional talent on there. Ability to sustain goes without saying, right? Which is, and you heard Dr. Dre and you heard Lee come up and talk about that. This is a big, big investment by the college, the overall Center of Excellence initiative, right? Because it's not just hospitality, it's 6 large COEs. Whoa, I mean, that's real money, right? Talking about bonds, and you're talking about this, and you're talking about real money, et cetera, which means people have to be accountable and all that kind of thing. So it's a natural thing to say, yeah, sounds good right now, but that means incremental progress, good success, partnerships have to help drive that along the way there. Teach the necessary work ethic needed. I think that's great. So that one just says, boy, you think it's a challenge to draw in industry leaders and instructional talent like that. You got another problem on your hands. How are you going to help change a generational viewpoint about work? So we've been doing work with Indeed, the job board. And I don't know if you know anything about Indeed. They're a really interesting culture. They're based in Austin, Texas, and they're growing like wildfire. You probably hear their ads all the time right now on what differentiates them on that. Their motto is, we get people jobs. And their CEO and all their people wear the T-shirts around, we get people jobs. And so we were doing these interviews. Well, what's your vision out there? We get people jobs. Oh, okay. What's your mission? We get people jobs. You know, so they're totally focused on that. But one of the things they do is they're changing, again, the way that people who are on the boards interview, understand the nature of work, the whole transaction, et cetera, because they believe that one of the most valuable things for a human is that idea of well-placed work, that it really matters to people in their individual esteem and family structure and so forth like that. So there are elements of this, I believe, that the COE is going to have to tackle. And at the initial level, it's just be a little bit more professional, be a little bit sharper, you know, like that. But there's more to it as well, which is your insightful, your ability to be empathic with a guest, for example, to be genuine, to be authentic. How many of us have been in an experience where somebody is just giving us this guest glop, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but you know what I mean, where it's just kind of something they've been taught and they're not genuine. Well, Mr. Griffin, it's so good to see you. Really? You mean it? You know, and you know when someone is, man, it looks like you've been through the grinder today, man. Sit down, relax. What do you do? You know, that's different, right? That says, you know what I've been through today, that kind of thing. So, again, really interesting there. Again, just the rest of the list there makes complete sense there. Adaptable, nimble, strong on that. I love the connections at the leadership level because we talked a little bit about that. that even in the room here, the panel, all of you, et cetera, that's a beginning point there that says, man, if we can create and sustain those connections, that's really powerful there. And I bet they hope that you'll be partners with them, that you'll maybe throw in a little resource, a little bit of an open house, whatever it might be. That makes sense, right? But again, it's not just the local leadership. The ability to reach out nationally and globally becomes important as well. Any just final comments here? We're going to do one more open question. We'll take that into a break as you do that, and we'll come back with a summary. But anything else that just comes to mind about the challenges that you see? Pretty expected set, all things considered? Yeah, I mean, it's important. I know they're thinking through these, but we want to hear from you. All right, the last thing we're going to do before we go into a break is just to ask you now, with this as a backdrop, in terms of your thoughts around the idea of a center of excellence, some of the things you like so far, some of the concerns that you have, help us populate what you think an ideal center of excellence would look like for hospitality leadership at Pima. So think about the elements that you'd like to see there, the areas of focus, the desired outcomes, the things that you think that the leadership team should be planning for. Hit this one really hard, and right now it is about 10 after, so we're going to assume this will take you at least 5 minutes to do, and then we're going to take a break until 10:30, and then we'll come back at 10:30, give you plenty of time to, again, refreshments in the back and so forth on that, restrooms out the side, go grab some sunshine, whatever, but we'll start back up at 10:30, and we'll take a look at the summary. So multiple response here, hit this one hard, keep asking yourself what else, important elements here of the Center of Excellence, and just be as specific as you can in them. Thank you. 2 minutes. All right, let's bring you back. We're going to go ahead and get started again. All right, welcome back, everybody. I know a couple of people just coming in, so that's perfect. So we're right on schedule, by the way. So we're going to try to conclude the summit here around 11:30 to 11:40, somewhere in that range, and give us plenty of time to sort of settle into what I understand is going to be an awfully good lunch. So we'll leave it at that. That's good stuff from that standpoint. So to demonstrate and to illustrate the importance of time management, though, I must tell you this story. So as some of you probably have ascertained, I sort of been working with collaborative technologies for a long time. The basis of this software system actually was begun 25 years ago in Tucson. It was a joint project between IBM and the University of Arizona. And I was involved in IBM at the time, and that was the Ventana Corporation. Some of you may have known Ventana and Jay Nunemaker and the team there. They were pretty world-renowned for what they did. But that's all I do now is I facilitate, doing virtual sessions and different kinds of organizations all over the country, and I always enjoy it because it's something that I think gives people a voice. So I'm also part of the Arizona Technology Council, and Steve Zylstra is the CEO of the Technology Council, and he holds a CEO conference every summer, either up in Prescott or Sedona. This last one was up in Prescott. And he said, Doug, I think people would really enjoy kind of just getting historical perspective about collaboration and software and where the industry's going and all that stuff, and we'd like you to be one of the keynotes for the conference up there. I said, Steve, I'm your guy, man. This is great. So you've tapped into the right expertise here. So I said, that'll be great. And I said, how much time do I have? He said, well, this is a keynote. So you got 90 minutes, and I expect really good stuff. I said, got it, man. So I did my research and everything. I was pretty pumped up about it. These are all the top CEOs in Arizona and the Southwest doing technology and stuff like that. And so Steve gave me a nice welcome. He knows me quite well and all that kind of stuff. And boy, I hit it out of the park. I mean, I got to tell you, I was on that day. Just one of those things where I felt like I was interacting well and talked about experiences and all that kind of stuff. And 90 minutes just door to door, right on the nose. I just felt really good about it. And went into a break right afterwards, much as we just did there, and kind of felt pretty good, how it is when you have a really good session like that. And this gentleman comes up to me, and he kind of walks up to me there, and he introduces himself, and he says, well, hey, that was pretty interesting. He goes, I'm a producer for NBC. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, that was pretty good stuff. I want to ask you a question. He said, do you think you could condense that down into about 15 minutes? And I said, yeah. He said, well, why didn't you? So, my God, no. So you have to think about that. All right. So anyway, I was excited about that, but I'll leave it. So we're still going to stay right on track here. We're going to move right into the assessment. You gave us great stuff to work with on this. And so this is a little longer of an assessment. We've got about 25 items here that we're going to ask you to take a look at. Carl has popped into those right now. And on that, what we've got here is a list here of potential attributes of a compelling hospitality leadership center of excellence. And again, as I mentioned, there's about 25 of them there. What we're going to ask you to do is very thoughtfully just take a look at those and indicate how important you feel they are for the success of the COE overall. Well planned, well implemented, well thought out. You're going to see a big variety of topics here. Not everything's a 10, so just be kind of judicial with your, again, your assessment. But the same idea, again, the low scale, not that big of a deal. As you go up the scale, 8, 9, 10, very important. I'd really like to see emphasis on that. I think it's an important and compelling aspect. So go through all 25. Once you're all set, click on Submit. We'll take a look at those and have some open discussion about them, and then we're going to get into a couple of workforce topics that we think will be of interest to you. Thanks. This is so hard to figure out. Yeah, it moved a little and then it froze again. I'm getting tired. Got it. Got it. Boom. Almost got it. There we go. There we go. Yeah. But we're not going to vote. But yeah, we are. As a matter of fact. Hello. Oh, darn. Ah, Major Tom. Got to be able to do this, girl. That's as good as I'm going to get. And probably another minute. Responses coming in nicely. A little longer list, but important for us to look at kind of the nuances on these. And let's give it just one more minute, just a couple of you finishing up. Excellent. All right, might be just one or two of you finishing up, but for most of you, you're at the results on your screen there, and you can take a look at the overall group assessment. First of all, again, we're on a lot of very important points here. There's about a dozen of these that are in 9.0 and above that suggest, again, extremely important. They're all important in their own right, but take a look at that top set, especially just in terms of some of the critical factors, high quality instruction. This issue of real world experience, internship, preparing people again for the real task there is just this very, very practical element of the COE that comes out in many respects there. So I think that's really important there. Soft skills, communications, relationship development, et cetera. Job placement experiences. Again, back to that idea of people that will sit down across from me and really, demonstrate themselves really well in terms of their skills and a sense that I could put them into my organization there. Compelling vision, strong partnerships, high standards. Flexibility in course offerings, this idea that if you're going to reach out to, again, a diverse set of students out there, again, people who are making mid-course career changes or et cetera like that, you got to make sure that you've got flexible course offerings to support that, because if not, they're going to choose something else. That's kind of the net of that. If you can say, hey, we know that some of you are looking to make changes or you've got family and work experiences that are going on at the same time, we're going to accommodate that in the right kind of way. Still going to be a hard program, but we're going to accommodate that flexibility on that. Flexible culture, integrating business topics with core hospitality topics, again, 8.9 there, helping reframe perceptions around the career opportunities, team-based, collaborative service delivery, linkage to the high schools, partnerships with other education institutions. I know GCU's here, for example, NAU and so forth on that. So again, really important from that standpoint. As you look at this list, anything that it tells you about the COE and what's at stake and what has to be done for it to be successful, or any surprises here about the way that these were assessed by you and your peers? What do you see here? Just maybe an implication or an observation that you have? Ah, here we go. John? John, yeah.
I would just say, in looking at this, this is a really compelling vision. I love every aspect of it. I think the only danger I see is just it's a lot,
Yeah.
and I mean whether it's time and money, just the the efforts to get I think the private sector and others involved in this as well. If it's going to be a true center of excellence. This is a heavy lift, and so I think it's going to be really important to try and get as many commitments as you can up front in terms of time and money, from folks outside to be able to make this work. I think if it does work, the end benefit to all of us in this region is massive.
Yeah.
I salivate thinking about this being in existence. It would be phenomenal.
Thank you for the comments, and Sean over here to the start. This is really important because for the leadership team, for Jewel and the team, think about this. It's easy to get just excited about this, like great. And the problem is for all of you that have done implementation planning or strategic planning, the death of strategic planning is to do too many things insufficiently at one time and creating no focus at all. So sequence these in the right kind of way, and the critical path of the elements will be really important, and to select a few of these to start out with that may feed others. For example, the partnerships is an excellent example of that. So well thought out there, please.
You just mentioned some surprises, and I was surprised to see kind of high visibility and community culinary events and partnership with tourism. Local tourism is low because we're kind of tucked away here, and visibility of as if this is going to be the center of excellence for culinary in the future, we should be part of those events.
Yeah, and it's an important point. One sort of note of caution there, even though we're looking at a sequential list or an ordered list here, they're still pretty strong overall there. But we don't want those to be buried, and I think that's the important point here is, look, just because that's down a little bit, boy, don't dismiss how important that is, because That's what you're doing to add value to this community is you're there. By the way, what a great way to help create visibility for the brand and what you're doing, and also adding, again, impact for Tucson overall. So I think it's a really important point to bring out here on it, which is don't lose the sight of that. Even the ones that fall all the way down, there's one around the culture and heritage of Tucson itself. Yeah, you should be celebrating, exploring. There should be courses around the unique aspects of, hospitality and culinary and, heritage and support there and supporting that, keeping that alive, in that kind of point. So it gets back, though, that a lot to do, right? Heavy lifting on this thing. So, but don't dismiss those kinds of things. Somebody has to be reaching out to communicate that and make sure it's visible. Other points, these are great. Other just points. There's one in the back here. Sean, thanks.
I love that your comment or your after reply to his was the strategic planning element of that,
Yeah.
and not even just strategic planning, but strategic management after the plan has been executed,
Yeah.
and the strategic evaluation of how to correct any actions that need to be corrected, because
Yeah.
there always will be
Yeah.
in these things, and that's the thing is. Hotel is maybe a little bit different than culinary. Culinary may be a little bit more volatile, and
Yeah.
in 2 years, the preferences, tastes, or desirabilities of products may change, and you need to adapt to stay, relevant and excellent. So.
It's really interesting because sometimes we think about curriculums in a non-business sort of format here. This is a business venture. I mean, it really is. And this idea of project management and implementation expertise, back to, again, all the different components, really says somebody's got to kind of ride herd on that so that there is really strong project expertise that goes into this to be able to do that. I'm feeling really bad now about the keyboard work in your right hand now there, so he's got a kind of a wrapped up hand there. So hopefully it's working out all right. So, but thank you for raising it because it's a big deal from that standpoint. Other just observations, these are good. Let's, Sean, come up here and we'll grab this one. Giving Sean a workout here, I like it, that's good. Yeah, we'll get you second. All the way at the front here, yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, one thing that I noticed, and it's no news to any of us, is creating the high standards for students in academic or an overall learning outcome. I mean, if we don't have high standards, we have no business.
Yeah.
And I think starts with education. Our kids and students, whether they're young or middle age, need to see what they can learn and see what they can go with that. And the primary example, it starts with everyone, who has a family and kids. If they go to high schools, we know they're going to do well. We as a professionals, it's our obligation to train and develop those students and employees with the vision that they can go somewhere with the degree or with the current position. So what I'm trying to also add to this panel is that we don't pay well as in the culinary or hospitality in general, but there has to be a light in the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So if you are entry-level supervisor and making $12, $14 an hour, you need to see and have a leadership in place, and again, starts with PIMA, that in 5 years, I might get the sort of better position with the organization or move on to the others. So I'm proudly to say that several of the students that I was teaching here at PIMA on this campus, they made it big. And this is something that PIMA should be proud of, and they should advertise.
That's great. So thank you for your comments, because it's a really important point of view. I think that people like to do hard things at the end of the day. They like to be challenged. They like to work on something that matters. And if they can see it and feel like they're supported in it and feel like there's an end game in it, then I think people react really well to that. They like to, kind of work away hard on the thing. And sometimes maybe in these days and times we don't make it hard enough, or we don't make the standards what they should on that. And it does a couple of things. One is I think that it engages the right kind of student attitude coming in, which is, look, this isn't going to be a cakewalk, so to speak, in terms of culinary. But it becomes important, and it also builds the brand. But it also, I think, keeps people more sustained in the organization.
You just said it. You build the brand. So my question would be ultimately, what does the PIMA brand stands for?
That's exactly right, and that's going to be a really big deal. And I see Jewel kind of nodding her head, because that's really what it is on that thing. Is you're trying to differentiate and say, hey, at the end of the day, 5 years from now, we might be saying, man, it is really hard to get in that program. Sorry, man, come back next year. Go work in the industry for a year, and come back. We'd love to have you, but you're not quite where you need to be on that. We're not at that point yet, but imagine, that kind of thing, because that raises the bar for everybody. So again, really good points. Any other comments here? These are really important points of view, I think. So. All right, let's do a couple questions. I mentioned around workforce, and I thought it'd be interesting right now just to tap into some of your experiences right now. And the first one we're going to ask you is just about some of the challenges you have right now in workforce development, whether it's onboarding or attracting or developing, retaining, whatever it might be. I'm just interested now, kind of your point of view. What are some of the key kinds of challenges you face right now in workforce development in your own organizations right now that kind of occupy your time and leadership talent? And again, just multiple responses here. We'll take a look. But again, some of the key kinds of things here that are really key from that standpoint. Critical workforce issues. We're not going to vote this one, so okay. So we're not going to vote, but we're going to categorize. So you got retention. Okay. Creating competitive compensation. Finding talent in the market. The ability to reach out at the high school level for shadowing and internship positions. Lack of fundamental skill sets in the workforce. Insurance liabilities that prevent us from moving forward with our internships. Getting new employees through the critical first year. Overall work ethic of employees. Not having enough training resources available for workforce development. Employees too focused on their current position and not thinking about career opportunity. Employees that jump around too often. Another minute or so here. So some, I think, pretty expected areas for the most part here around retention, finding people in a difficult market, being able to pay market compensation, training dollars that are constrained, getting the people that have the right set of skills, et cetera. On the issue of retention, and again, we're not going to do an electronic exercise on it, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you have in retaining people right now? What are some of the biggest challenges? And let's say they're good people. Let's say they're people that you want to keep. What are the biggest challenges that you are experiencing right now in retaining people? Here we go.
Well, whoever wrote number 26 is spot on. In this job market, employees are jumping around and trying out employers far too frequently.
Yeah.
They're not staying in a position or role long enough to master these skills.
It's the grass is greener, right, on the other side there. And when a job market is constrained like this from a talent perspective, people are saying, hey, come on over here. We'll what you're doing right now is limiting your skills. We'll do a little acceleration for you, et cetera. So it's a really important point, and it's difficult to combat because that sounds really sweet, right? Sounds good. Please, go ahead.
So I'm just going to add to this with the maybe answer because.
I think these guys are reading their own comments. That's what I'm. No, I'm just kidding. No, go ahead.
So it is hard to retain these employees, but I think we need to take as a leader of hospitality and executives. So we need to look from the prism of what are we doing from our end to make them,
Exactly.
stay for us, and that the on-job board training is very crucial. I mean, one of the question here that it's turnover. Every 2 months I have to hire housekeeper or manager or a line employee. Refers on an image and a training program with an organization.
Yeah.
So the team member comes in and he is not giving or very little tools to do the job, and with sometimes with no training. And usually, when you're in a higher end organization, resort or any other institution versus ma and pa restaurants, it's a clear reflections of who is the owner and how do they train their employees.
That's right. It's interesting because it suggests that there is, in addition to the student learning, there's a leadership track here that the college could offer, and Sean, right over here to this next one, that for example, developing a culture of retention in your organization. What a terrific topic. What is it that in your organization that you can do to create a stronger retention base there about your development, about your identification of career pathing, about whatever it might be, that materially changes the retention base that you have. And some leaders will get that and some leaders won't. But to be able to offer those kinds of things, it's a whole other thread that could come out of the Center of Excellence. And that's why that input from all of you becomes important to say, look, why don't you just do this? We'll be glad to speak at it or whatever like that. It'd be terrific on that thing. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. Please.
Yeah, yes, and I do that. I bring in people from within Tucson here to come into my classes and speak, and my students get so much out of that. They walk out and it adds a different element rather than listening to me speak. They hear it from somebody else, even though they're friends of mine. They draw from that, and they get the 10-time kind of real life experience. But back to his point, how do I say this? Because I'm both sides. I came out of the industry here late, last year, and have been here for 8 years. In this, there has to be a crossover.
Yeah.
There has to be skin in the game, and we're not seeing that on the operation side. I'm working with one of the groups here in this room at a corporate level. And what they realized, and they came to me and they said, we have a problem. They said, our managers are leaving. And they're doing just what you're saying, Ryan. They're spending time, they're saying, well, we developed them, they stay, and then they leave. And they couldn't put the whole fingers in the dike to stop the leaks. So I had to reevaluate, and I said, this is what we created ourselves. Is we've gone from what Erlinda and I talked about previously, the hands-on. We used to have a training program. You would come in, you would work your way through the system in the hotels. And we don't do that anymore. And we don't do enough. But to that end, it has to be cohesive on both sides.
Yeah.
And we kind of have to go back and bring it back and make it work.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you're going to fix this. And there has to be some skin in the game on both sides.
Yeah.
And that's where this collaboration is going to be really
Exactly,
beneficial for both of us, because we can blend into what you really want us to do, and we can give you the product that you want.
It's great. It's really important points, and there has to be a willingness to try some new stuff. There might be a willingness to go back to some stuff that worked previously on that. And the other point that I would, just about this idea of people from the industry coming in to speak, my experience is that people love to do that. People that are in the industry come back to a university or college environment and talk about their experiences. They all get it. They all were there, and they've got life experiences and work experiences they think are really valuable. And it's just kind of fun for them to shed their, the operational responsibility for one morning and come in and say, boy, what's on your mind, you guys? And let me tell you about this. And boy, if you can do this, you're going to be better positioned. My experience is they love to do that. You don't have to cajole them too hard. They will do it. And that builds relationships and all, kind of becomes your speaker's bureau, which I think is really important. So that's great. Any other comments here? These are terrific comments. So we're going to do our next exercise now. We're going to ask you to be a bit more specific. What do you think are the most important jobs, skills, areas that you would like graduating students from the COE to have coming into your organization? So if you kind of build a list of, boy, whether they're soft skills or operational skills or whatever it might be, we're going to do an exercise around that. Carl's sending it out right now. And let's take a look here again at the kinds of skills that you think are really critical. Abilities, experiences, love to have these in place as someone who comes out of the COE. Let's take a look here. One more minute. Nicely done. All right, really good stuff here. We've got a nice list that we've developed some 18, 19 areas here that we want to have you take a look at. And it's a really an interesting set. It's very, some soft skills, some hard skill, some introspective kinds of skills. So we're going to take you right into that and just ask you to indicate how important you think these skills are to have present in a graduating student from the COE that you would look positively to. So take you into it right now. Carl, let's go right over to the assessment. And on this, again, everything emphasis on soft skills, food sanitation, safety, personal integrity, organizational leadership, how to influence teams, personal integrity, kind of a nice list there. So let's have you, you're pretty used to this now, just assess again how important these are. I know it'll be helpful to Jewel and the team, just a sense there about some of the skill areas that you think are most critical. And probably another minute or so here. All right, just a few of you wrapping up. Those of you in the results, you'll see again that we've got a pretty common view, especially on that top set, very low standard deviation. All right, kind of interesting here. We've got some of these that are sort of big ticket items. Some seem like they're just common sense, but maybe not common practice, right, is the issue. So top of the list right now, and again, this just idea of just professionalism. You're representing the organization, you're representing me, all those kinds of things. Makes complete sense on that. The appreciation for punctuality. How do you like that? Small things that make a big difference, right? Small things that make a big difference on that. I want to ask you a little bit about this. So the problem resolution and critical thinking was kind of at the top of the list the whole time. Why is that so important to you? I know on face value it makes sense, but give me a little bit more detail on that. Why this issue on critical thinking, problem resolution. Why is that such a critical area? Okay, we'll get you and then you. So go ahead, Jan. Please.
And one of the things we tend to contend with our resort is we have a lot of very nice people, very friendly, very engaging. It's those critical points when they're presented with a problem.
Yeah.
You know,
so true.
it's just either the blank look or the next words out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Is going to make or break, and it's going to determine how many people are going to have to get involved in this situation to repair what was stated.
Yeah.
So we tend to run into that. So being able to assess a problem, being
Yeah.
able to understand what to say and what not to say in those situations that could make or break the interaction with the guest.
So it's a great point. The moments of truth, right, that come into play, and that idea then, if you're really savvy about how to do that, because it could be half the time something just doesn't go quite as expected. I mean, these are people we're dealing with, right? And how you respond in a way that's appropriate, that's professional, that's thoughtful, et cetera, and not going overboard either. In other words, doing the right kinds of things there that represent the, that's a big deal. You do that, you're probably a superstar, right? I mean, it's just, wow, that will take you places. Well thought, thanks.
Well, problem resolution, I was a general manager in hotels before I started teaching. And I can tell you, every day I went to work was a different day. We had problems galore, from murder to, you name what, I had it. But so how to solve
Tell
this
me that
problem?
hotel again.
I had it, believe me. I managed a hotel in Louisiana. That was a different story altogether. But I've been in 26 different states in this country, so I know all the brains. It's and now I'm teaching our students real case studies. They
Yeah.
need to analyze and how they're going to solve their problem.
Yeah.
And that's really the most important case in hotels.
Yeah. So it's a great opportunity also for case study kind of work like that, to say, look, here's the scenario, here's the situation. What would you have done? And let's kind of break it down, sort of feedback on the things. A great opportunity. Sometimes plenty of different ways that have handled it. The question is, what would you have done and why? What was the learning point, et cetera, in that, please?
In one of my previous resorts that I had had the opportunity to work for, probably about 2 years before I started working there in 2009, they had about 75 managers. By the time I showed up, there was only about 25. And I think what we've seen in our industry, going all the way back to 2001 after 9/11, is we don't have the luxury of having multiple layers. I think somebody mentioned earlier that middle management aspect of it. We have supervisors, we have managers, we have directors, but you're not talking about 20 extra people under various layers. So the critical aspect of an hourly team member to be able to come in and handle problems on the spot is extremely critical. So those skills are very necessary in our industry, because at the end of the day, we might have 1 or 2 managers on duty, but they might be taking care of 15 other fires. And our guests, just like us, expect immediate results. So when they go to you, they expect you to resolve their issue, no matter what your name tag says, no matter what department you work in and represent. If I'm out in the lobby and a guest comes to me, I'm in human resources. I don't work in the front office. I don't work in these areas. I have experience in those areas, but it's been a few years removed.
Yeah.
They expect me to be able to resolve their issue without having to go to somebody else. So I think those issues are very critical.
It's a really interesting point in 2 respects. One is everybody's a manager. Everybody there has to have that ability to resolve things. And by the way, you got to train for that too. You can't just sort of think people can make that up. They have to understand what are their boundaries and what is their level of empowerment and what's at stake and those kinds of things. And the other thing is, we've all experienced this, right? Which is, what's your general reaction when you're talking to somebody trying to resolve it and they said, well, let me get a manager for you. It's like, really? Do I have to do that? I have to tell you again the story? Why can't you figure this out, my friend? So it just, you know, it creates angst for everybody on that, when it was probably, no, if it's something that's extraordinarily important to have, I get that, right? But if it's something where you're looking and you go, you got to be able to figure this one out, it's not that hard. It just sort of says your culture is not giving people the empowerment they need, and that kind of makes my experience bad. So great stuff on that. Anyone else? Yeah, one more over here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Here.
okay.
Yeah, please.
I wanted to just a touch point on the number 8, food sanitation and safety. You know, and we in the hospitality business, we know how important it is to, and what happens if somebody's going to get sick or not trained properly on the usage of equipment. So, you know, I will say the professionalism is number 1, but number 2 always should be safety and sanitation at work. And I don't think that we, on a day-to-day basis, emphasize enough to our regular employees and students, in the classrooms. This is really, really serious. And we always roll our eyes when things happen wrong and something happen. We need to fill it up, call, general manager or other institutions to get to the bottom of why somebody did not wear, cut glove or, PPE equipment and things of that nature. So keep in mind, safety is always first, in my opinion.
That's great. Thank you for raising that, because it really, and it's not just the individual transaction of safety and sanitation. This is brand and crisis. I mean, you get into a high visibility issue there for your restaurant or your resort or your chain or like that. We know what the implications of that. Please, Sam.
So looking at this list and going off of what Brett was talking about, what we're discussing right now is very broad. There's a lot of facets that need to be covered. I think us as industry leaders need to put it in our mind that PIMA's not going to deliver the total package. Yeah. We have to tell PIMA what we need to be delivered to our doorsteps, and then we're going to mold our employees from there. So what is missing from that entry-level employee that PIMA can help grow, and then once they're at our doorsteps, how do we grow them from there? So I challenge the industry leaders to think of it in that concept, not necessarily deliver somebody that has all the skills.
Oh, yeah, the perfect candidate is coming. Yeah. And I think it's really important. The other thing that suggests is that there may be other resources that PIMA should be tapping into that can help deliver those kinds of things. It doesn't have to all be done through the COE. So some of these you want to kind of do organically, so to speak, because you want to influence in a certain way. Others might be, look, everyone who goes through this semester, you're also going to do this as a self-study with that, that kind of thing to add value on that. So it's a really good point there. One more over here, Sean, thank you.
I completely agree with everyone's points so far. I was really surprised to see that number 17 scored as low as it did. The common calendaring communication such as email, Outlook, etc. I think it's a critical business skill. I think when we have students or employees that don't understand those basic communication skills through Outlook, calendar, or email, it slows down the effectiveness of our organizations. It's a hindrance to our businesses, and it takes a disproportionate amount of time to develop those skills in people when we are in an instantaneous, we need to do it right now, and those skills need to come to us rather than developing those from within.
Great insight and strong view on that. And just imagine how refreshing it would be, right, for students to come in saying, hey, I'm in good shape on that. Tell me a little bit about the implementation of your calendar, using what version of Outlook or whatever like that. So it only takes me a little bit to hit the ground running. Everything from onboarding to orientation to whatever like that, you're more effective in that fast. So it's a really important point. Again, it's a little mundane at times, I get it, but it's really important, right? So well said on that. Anything else on that? All right, we have a couple of final activities that we want to do on this, and one of them is just around this idea of partnerships. We've talked a lot about it. You're here, and we appreciate that, and it suggests that you're open to partnering. Question is, what makes a good partnership? So we just want to ask you, in your experience here, thinking about the work that you've done in industry and with other organizations, what are some of the attributes or elements that really create strong partnerships? Some of them will be face value, pretty easy to identify. I think some will be more subtle. So let's go into that for a minute. We won't try to vote or anything. We just want to get some viewpoints. Let's take a look here. you go. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. Again, transparency, integrity, each other's viewpoints there. Take the time to build a relationship, right? Recognize celebrate some of the successes along the way. Be available for interactions and discussions. Have a little financial skin in the game or resource in the game on this. Be willing to use metrics that matter. I mean, just really good stuff here that suggests that will help, again, build and execute important partnerships along the way. Anyone else, just observation about the issue of developing partnerships or, again, executing them in these days and times? Anything that's maybe a trend that you've noticed or something that really draws you into a partnership that might not be as apparent to some people? Are they harder to build and sustain these days, or is it just, if you do it right, and you'll get the value? What's your sense about that? Anybody? Yeah, let's go over there.
One of the partnerships that we started out when we first acquired the hotel in Phoenix was through the spring training demand that comes through Phoenix in March. Yeah. And there's 16 teams that come out here for a little over a month. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of competition between hotels to get that business. But one thing that we were able to do is foster a relationship that had no sponsorship, no partnership, just a relationship, an ongoing conversation for a year. And once they saw the vision that we had started constructing but had not finished yet, they saw the finished product, then there was a contract involved and a partnership. And so now, that being said, we're the official hotel and restaurant for the Milwaukee Brewers during spring training. And now that they have a new 25-year contract for their stadium, we're putting a learning lounge in their baseball stadium for that month. So kids can go watch games and then, get some tutoring as well.
That's great.
So you would never think that alliance or relationship would start with us just eating lunch once a month for a year, and then now it's huge. Our brand is in the outfield of the stadium and all that stuff. So it's interesting, but you have to stay communicating to build relationships, that's for sure.
Just investing the time to build that, and sometimes to roll the dice a little bit before things are formalized becomes really important. I was with the Scottsdale Charros organization day before yesterday, and they're the ones that have the relationship with the Giants and the city of Scottsdale for the downtown stadium, which is a really nice stadium. And they're redoing their contract now for the next 25 years. Oh my gosh, what's going into that thing is unbelievable. And just the relationships and the give and take and what's required and all that stuff, it's unbelievable. And they're going to get it done. I mean, they're really going to get it done. And it'll be mutually beneficial to all. But if you said, hey, we got to have this thing done by Friday, they would say goodbye. I mean, you really have to take the time with it.
Just an additional thing, like I focus on sales and marketing for our enterprise companies, the hotel and restaurant, and it blossomed into something so much bigger than my small business, and it's an educational factor. So it's really great to see how these relationships can blossom into something that you had the initial demand. It's far greater than that.
Just the last thing I comment is that is such a really interesting observation. Sometimes a partnership can be even more than you expected. And just to ask that simple question, which is, how could we make this even better? Thinking about next year, is there anything else we could do differently like that? Small question, sometimes somebody would say, if you really want to knock this thing out of the park, why don't we, hadn't thought about that. So again, that becomes important for PIMA, I think, to take the initiative in many respects on that, to say, how's this working? What can we do to do better? I know we had an issue here. Did we resolve it in a way that you felt was appropriate? That kind of thing as you go through it. Yeah, please, one more here. So Sean, let's hit this one. Thanks.
To me, the concept of partnership insinuates that both sides are going to benefit out of a relationship, and that's something where I see a really clear value proposition here that the COE would provide, and something that, in terms of a true partnership, if you're going to be asking for money, for time, for insight from people, understanding what's in it for them is going to be very important. And I think there's a very clear value proposition here with the COE where everybody would benefit. I mean, with a lot of folks who come in and they're looking for my time, money, whatever the case may be, and rarely can they communicate a partnership. It's just, hey, we want you to do this, and it's rarely communicated what's in it for me or my organization or our industry. And so I think this automatically and immediately there's a value proposition that we can all benefit from.
And what's really important about that is, to the degree that PIMA develops that expertise in sort of partnering like that, it just means the next time they come, you're going to be much more open to them because they understood and they delivered on some mutual value that back to you. And by the way, you will tell some peers about that, I bet, which becomes important. A round table, a board, something like that. All right, we're going to finish up with a couple of short survey activities because they'll be helpful for Jewel and the team. So let's pop into the next one on communications here. And we're just going to ask you a couple of quick questions about communications ongoing, because that was so much of what we just saw there was the importance of that. And what we'll just ask you, first of all, what will be most important for COE to communicate to the industry and partners as the implementation moves forward? Just your open response. And then some assessments on different communication techniques. Again, in terms of a 1 to 10 cents about how effective they might be, just click on through there. And then optionally on number 8, anything else that comes to mind relative to another communication method. You can skip that one if something doesn't. And then submit. Shouldn't take you long to do, but a good way for us to trap a few communications thoughts. Thanks. The good thing here. Okay, it's so hard for me to remember which is which here. It's not a very good mouse. Great open feedback, by the way, just on what will be most important to communicate. But we're also seeing some methods of communication. Email still makes sense, social media. Open houses, though, kind of off the charts there, just really important opportunities on all sides on that. The organizational advocate, somebody that is kind of your counterpoint there. Great. And let's give it one final minute. All right, we're going to stay with a couple of short survey activities. Give it a moment here, and then we'll move to the next one. And Jewel, you ready for this? Okay, we're going to do a scenario here. Jewel and I talked yesterday, and she said, you know, we'd like to add a little question or two here and get the feedback from this team about a couple of operational issues or decisions that we have to make. And the first one is the location of the hospitality curriculum itself. And so we're going to share with you, and again, what we'll ask you to do is kind of keep this between the room here. This is just sort of a scenario, and there's nothing, again, in motion yet, but it's just an opportunity to look at. Carl, go ahead and take us into it. And on this next one here, right now, not surprisingly, Pima is acquiring some facilities and some land downtown to help kind of buffer the downtown campus and to continue to invest in the downtown area. It makes sense. ASU did that in downtown Phoenix, and it's a natural kind of thing. The question becomes is, as they do that, what's your sense about the idea and the potential of the curriculum moving to the downtown campus? So what we're going to ask you is, what do you see as the pros? What do you see as the cons? Do the pros outweigh the cons or vice versa? And then, independent of that, are there other locations in Tucson or the region that you think would be appropriate places for the curriculum and facilities and COE to be placed, which includes Desert Vista as well? So take a shot at that, and then we're going to do a secondary a question, sort of an issue on that, and let's find out your viewpoint on that. No, it's fine. I knew you were. I love this one. They're all gathered around. And probably a minute or two here, and then we'll do a brief follow-up, and then one more activity to wrap things up. So we're in pretty good shape here. Yeah, okay, all right. And let's give it about a minute. So as you're finishing that one up, and Jim mentioned to me on that, because I just kind of looked at the way the language was, that we are inferring that it would go to the downtown campus. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. So we're thinking, just make sure someone was thinking of it straight downtown on Congress or Broadway. This is on the downtown, which makes, yeah, okay. All right, let's give it about 30 seconds, and then we're going to do our follow-up on this. By the way, it's pretty positive feedback, by the way. A lot of it around transportation, bus, central location, things like that. So back up the moving van. Let's go. So kind of interesting here. All right. All right, I want to do a follow-up on that. Everybody in good shape? All right, Carl, let's go to the next one there. A follow-up, and we want to make it a separate question. It's independent of that, is the idea of the college managing a hotel. So as they acquire facilities down there, the overall idea of the college here, hospitality leadership, managing one of the facilities. So let's assume that it's an appropriate facility, it's a hotel kind of facility, it'd have to have some renovation, whatever like that. But the idea that the hotel students and staff, or the college students and staff, would actually manage that facility. So again, just your observations, pro, con on that, and your overall view. This is our next to last activity, but it's an important one just to get your impression around that. And probably a minute or two here. All right, one final minute, and by the way, probably not surprising here, again, the pros far outweigh the cons. Not everybody, though. Some of you say, watch liabilities, make sure that you've really got the staff to do it, creates expectations, the ability to do it, but obviously, overall, that idea of the experiential learning, the hands-on learning, the real-time opportunity becomes pretty powerful on that. So, and again, it's got to be done right, same as we've done before, so thank you for that. All right, all in there? We are going to our last activity. So it's an important one to wrap up with. It's some final feedback, just again, to the leadership team here about that and also experience on the session today. So we're going to move over to our final activity. And as we get to ready to transition, I would just like you to give a round of applause for the guys at the AV handling the thing. Sean, who's put in 5 miles. Nicely done. And Carl Lundblad, who's been working on summarizing all this stuff. Thanks, you guys, and April and the team just pulling everything together for this. Really appreciate it. So this is our last feedback. When you submit this, you'll go back to the agenda where we started out there, and then you're all set. And Jewel, what are we doing for lunch? Or how are we doing this? We're going to Jamaica? Oh, man, that sounds good, man. I like it. All right, is it in here or is it outside? Okay, great. All right, so let's take a couple minutes here, and then we'll turn it over to Jewel to kind of tell us where we're going. Jamaica, man. And probably about a minute, and then we'll have Jewel wrap things up on the summit side and get set for Jamaica, which I'm excited about. All right, just a couple of people finishing up, but Jewel, maybe you can go ahead and just prompt us on the next step here. But thanks, you guys, again, just really nice job all the way through, and I know it's really valuable for Jewel and the team, so thank you guys.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and end, but Marcy Euler is our president of the foundation, so we wanted to give her a few minutes, like 2, maybe 1, to just say a few words.
So thank you, Joel. This was phenomenal, I think, from my perspective of being able to hear what is important with regard to partnerships, particularly in a center of excellence. I am new to PIMA. I am new to the foundation, and so being able to hear what is, or read, what are priorities for industry partners will help shape how we are able to work in tandem with all of the different centers of excellence, and also engage our business and industry leaders in meaningful ways through time, talent, treasure, all of those kinds of things, because the success of PIMA will happen because of the kinds of partnerships that we can create that are innovative and nimble. And so I look forward to having sustained relationships with all of you and our centers across the campus. So thank you very much to the facilitators and to everyone who participated. This is really exciting stuff, and we are going to go into the next 50 years of PIMA and really make a big splash. I am certain of that. So have a great Friday.
Jim, were you trying to say something?
So just in closing, thank you so much for your time. We understand how valuable it is. It's incredibly valuable to us. And so we will follow up on all this great feedback, and we'll be asking to meet with you in the short term and follow up on some of this planning, some of this great feedback you've given us. But this has been invaluable to us. So thank you so much for your time today. And we're going to move directly to lunch, so please stay around as long as you want.